You are very welcome and invited to join me on your yoga mat for a deep stretch yin routine. I'll guide you through some poses that will focus mainly around the hips, the legs, and the spine. So this will be perfect if you need to release tension from those areas and maybe even gain some flexibility within them as well. This routine will also be a nice way just to unwind and relax as well. So if that sounds good, either save this video for a time when you can do it, or grab a yoga block or two, and let's get started with our first pose, which is child's pose. So you can come into whichever version you're craving the most at the moment. If you keep your knees closer together, you'll target your spine. If you bring them further apart, it'll help to open up your hips. If your hips can't quite make it down onto your heels, you can have a cushion or a yoga block in underneath. When you're ready, you can bring your forehead either down onto the mat or it can rest onto your hands. If you're not using your hands, you can bring them to rest next to your feet with the palms facing up. Find your breath. Notice it as it comes in and out of your body. Take a moment to loosen up your jaw, soften your facial muscles. Now tap into the sensations that you might be feeling within your body. Maybe that slow stretch and opening of your hips. Maybe you can feel your vertebrae moving away from each other, just gently lengthening and stretching out your spine. We'll give ourselves 3 minutes in total in child's pose, just to help the body ground and relax. So when it comes to it, we will be in a more relaxed state to get into those deeper stretches. So all you have to do is be a witness to your breath, to your body. And as thoughts start to form throughout this practice, just notice them as they arise. You don't have to label them as good or bad. Just acknowledge them as a thought, and then try your best to come back to your yoga mat, to your breath, and to your body. We'll be here for just a few more breaths in child's pose. Before we release the pose, you might loosen up your jaw. Take a big breath in and out. When you're ready, you can push yourself away from the ground, coming back up to find a seat on the mat. sitting whatever way is most comfortable for you. And then we'll just take a few breaths here. Maybe feeling some of that new energy flowing down your spine, into your hips, and then into your legs, rejuvenating and refreshing everything as it slowly falls down. We'll make our way into our next pose, which is dragon pose. So we'll start by bringing the hands towards the front of the yoga mat. And you can step your right foot forward in between your hands. If you have yoga blocks, you can rest your hands onto your blocks. And if not, they're just resting on the mat. You can walk your back knee back slightly to go a little bit deeper into this pose, and your back toes can be tucked, or you can have the top of your foot on your mat. And we'll just stay here for a few breaths, feeling once again that slow stretch and opening within your hips and your groin. You might be feeling this within your back hip flexor and your back quad. Even though our focus for this routine is on finding a deep stretch, we'll still remind ourselves of the first principle of yin yoga, which is to come to an appropriate depth or to play your edges. So we should be on our first edge here, and that's the point where you can still feel a stretch, but you don't feel as though you're forcing anything or that you're overdoing it. Yin yoga shouldn't be easy, but there should never be any possibility that you are injuring yourself, and you should never be in pain when you're in a yin yoga pose. So with that being said, this might be your first and final edge, and that's absolutely fine to stay here. But if you do feel as though your body is inviting you to go to the next edge, well, then you can walk your right foot to the outside of your right hand, pointing that foot away from you so your toes are maybe spilling off of your yoga mat. And then checking in, seeing how this feels. And for many of us, this is probably the final edge. If we were to go any further, we would be in that red zone where we are causing pain or too much discomfort. But if you do feel as though you can go that little bit further, you might come down onto your forearms, either bringing them onto your yoga blocks or maybe even onto the mat. Once you feel settled into dragon pose, just do as we did previously in child's pose. First, tap into your breath, and then tap into all of the sensations that you're feeling. As thoughts arise, just greet them, acknowledge them, and then very politely close the door on them. We'll be here in dragon pose for 1 more minute, trying your best to abide to the second principle of yin yoga, which is stillness, resisting the urges to fidget, just staying here as the quiet witness. wherever you are, you can start to slowly come back up, finding ourselves on our hands again. And then we'll make our way into sleeping swan from here. So you can just push your blocks to the front and then start to walk this right foot all the way over to the left side of the mat. Now your foot might need to come back much closer to your body. That's okay. We want to try keep the hips square here, so just be conscious that you're not sitting over on this right hip or leaning a little bit too much that way. If that's happening, you can place a cushion or a yoga block in underneath, just to try keep everything centered and balanced and almost equal between your two hips. If you're ready to go that little bit deeper into sleeping swan, you can come down onto your forearms, keeping your weight in your hips. And then you might rest your forehead onto the mat, or you can rest it onto a yoga block. We'll be here in sleeping swan for 3 minutes. First, finding your breath. You don't need to manipulate your breath in any way. Just watch it come in and out. And then little sensations within your right glute might already be presenting themselves to you. And you are just like an audience member here, just watching the show that your body is presenting to you. Before we release sleeping swan, you might just check back in on your jaw, keeping it soft. Check in on your hips and just try to determine if they still feel balanced. You don't have to get too hung up on this, but just making sure the weight is equally distributed. Take 1 or 2 more deep breaths in and out. When you're ready to release the pose, slowly push yourself away from the ground. And when you're back up, you can sit on your right hip this time. And we'll just bring both legs out in front of us for a moment. You can do whatever you need to do here. Maybe just find some stillness, feel the effects of the pose, or maybe release your ankles, shake out your legs. And from here we'll come into shoelace pose, and we'll have lots of options depending on where you're at in your practice and what you'd like to target today. So our first option is to come into half shoelace. And you can do that by bringing your left foot to the outside of your right hip. Now, if your hips are feeling very tight, then this might be your maximum edge, your first and final edge, and that's fine. You can stay here. You can stay with your spine upright to keep that focus within your hips, but if you are craving more of a hamstring stretch today, then you can start to fold forward very mindfully and slowly, and you'll start to feel that stretch within that bottom hamstring. But if you want to go into a deep hip stretch, then you can also bend this bottom knee, which is the right knee, bringing the right foot to the outside of the left hip. Now, when we're in shoelace or any time that we're sitting on the mat, you can always be sitting up on a cushion or a yoga block to make things a little bit more accessible. Just make sure that you can feel both of your seat bones pressing down, that you're not sitting on your feet. If you're in full shoelace, you have the option to stay here with your spine straight, or again, you might take it into a shoelace fold by slowly walking your hands away from you, dropping your head down, and you might find that that creates a deeper stretch, or it might bring the focus up into your spine. So take some time to find your version of shoelace, and we'll stay here for the next 3 minutes. Once you've found your edge, just sit there on it. Commit to stillness. Be the observer of your thoughts and of the physical sensations arising within you. Connect to your breath. And then I'll let you know when it's time to come back. Wherever you are within Shoelace, you can just come back so you're sitting with a straight spine. You might already be there. And just taking a breath or two. We'll bring ourselves into a little spinal twist now by bringing your right hand to the outside of this top knee. Left hand can come in behind you on the floor or on the mat. Inhale to lengthen your spine. And as you exhale, start to rotate from your tailbone almost. And then just turn one vertebrae at a time until eventually you'll be looking back over your left shoulder. And we'll stay here for 1 minute. Each inhale lengthening your spine, and each exhale helping you to twist. And remember, it's okay to just stay at your first edge. Wait for those invitations to twist a little bit deeper if they come. You can come back to center now. And when you're there, undo everything, bringing the legs back out long in front of you. And again, here you can do whatever you're craving. It might be stillness, it might be shaking, it might be stretching. Now we'll repeat that little sequence from dragon pose, but this time our left foot will be in front. So either bringing your left foot in between your hands or to the outside of your left hand. Back knee might slide back a little bit. Figuring out your first edge, and then we'll pause there for the next 3 minutes. And remember, there's no shame in reversing out of a pose or even coming completely out of a pose if it doesn't feel right. You'll always know when something feels wrong in your body. And remember that there's no point in hurting or injuring yourself through these poses. you can start to make your way back up onto your hands. Very slowly, we'll transition to sleeping swan. Heel toeing your left foot towards the right, bringing that right knee in front of you, and then trying to keep your hips nice and balanced and square. Keep your weight in your hips as you come down onto your forearms, either resting your head onto your mat or onto a block. And staying here for the next 3 minutes. And again, just imagining that you're a member of an audience sitting in a theatre. Your body is putting on the show, presenting all of these little things that you might become interested in. All of these little things that you can attach your awareness to. It's almost time for us to wake our sleeping swan. Before we do that, take a moment again to relax your jaw. Find that equilibrium within your hips. And then take a big breath or two from that center point. As you're ready, you can push yourself slowly back up. Sitting on that left hip and slowly bringing both legs out in front again. And it's time to come into shoelace pose again. So to start, we can bring our right foot to the outside of the left hip. You might be staying here either with a straight spine or folding forward. And then you might be bending your left knee as well. Again, here keeping that straight spine, or maybe going that little bit deeper by folding forward. Wherever you are, making sure you're not sitting on your feet and that you can feel your seat bones nice and equally balanced between the two sides. We'll be here for 3 minutes. All of your awareness sinking inwards and then dripping down into your hips, maybe going even further into your legs. Each breath in brings peace, relaxation into your body. And each breath out helps you to let go of something, helps you to clear space in tight areas. If you are in a fold, you can make your way back up into a straight spine. And when you're ready, we'll take it into a twist by hooking our left arm to our right knee. Right hand can come in behind you. Inhale to lengthen and exhale to rotate one vertebrae at a time. Maybe looking over your right shoulder. You can make your way back to center, unraveling the entire body now. You might take some time to lean back on your hands and do some windshield wipers, just dropping the knees slowly from side to side. And once you're satisfied that you have released all of the poses, we'll set ourselves up for our next pose, which is Anahatasana or puppy pose. And this is going to bring our focus more into the spine, especially the upper back. We will have our knees on the mat, so if you need to just fold over your mat to create that little bit of extra padding underneath them, please feel free to do that. Otherwise, we are just coming towards all fours. Reach your hands towards the top of your mat and then try to keep your hips relatively over your knees as you drop your chest and head down towards the ground. If this feels too intense for your shoulders, you can take a bend into your elbows. We'll be here for 3 minutes. Feeling that stretch within your upper back, maybe within your chest, within your shoulders. Once again, connecting to your breath and noticing how it feels different in this position. And then again, picture yourself as that member of the audience at the theatre, waiting for the show that your body will present to you. When you're practicing yin yoga, you might notice yourself doing little sighs or making little noises. And that's your body just releasing something that it had been holding on to. So if that urge to do that comes up, don't suppress it. Just let it out. When you're ready to release Anahatasana, you can very slowly reverse out of the pose. Taking your time and eventually finding yourself sitting on the mat again. And we'll pause here, maybe closing the eyes, tuning into how the body is feeling and what little energy channels are active. Now, one of my favorite poses to release the spine is supported fish pose. We'll do that now, and you can grab a yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, you can always use a really thick cushion, or if you had some books, you could use them. Of course, if you're using books, you can put a cushion or something soft over it. But we'll just put whatever we're using on the mat behind us. And then we're going to lie back down onto it, roughly aligning the bottom of your shoulder blades with the edge of the block. You can either rest your head onto a second yoga block or a cushion, or to get a really nice deep stretch, if your body is inviting you to do so, you can bring the crown of your head towards your mat. Then legs and arms can take up as much space as they need. We'll stay here for 3 minutes. Now just bringing our awareness back into the body for the last few breaths. Completely focused on the sensations you're feeling or just being super interested in your breath coming in and out of your body. We'll very slowly journey out of the pose, maybe just propping yourself back onto your elbows, slowly lifting your head, removing your prop from underneath, and then rolling your spine back down onto the mat. Pausing here to allow your spine to align itself against the hard ground again. Let your body digest supported fish pose. Now we'll restore equilibrium back into the body and give the hips and spine one final release with a reclined twist. So you can bring the sole of your left foot up onto your right thigh. Hold that top knee with your right hand and reach your left arm up into the air. Stack your hips on top of each other so your left hip is on top, bringing that knee over towards the right, and then release your left arm back down to the left, keeping it somewhat perpendicular to your body. Make sure both of your shoulders stay grounded. You can stay here, or to go deeper, you can look to the left. And we'll stay here for 3 minutes. This is a pose where you can really play with your edges. You might notice that your body invites you to twist a little bit deeper. And if that's the case, you can just encourage your knee that little bit closer to the ground. Gently twisting and squeezing any tension from your spine. Just taking about 3 more big breaths here. You can make your way back up to center, sending that left leg long, bringing the sole of your right foot onto your left thigh. Hold that top knee with your left hand, reach your right arm up, stack your hips, bringing your left hip on top this time, and then releasing your right arm back down. Twist only as much as you can keep both of your shoulders connected to the mat. And if you want to go deeper, you can look over your right shoulder. You can make your way back to center now. Unfurling out into corpse pose, having your legs long on the mat. If that doesn't feel great for your spine, you can keep your knees bent and then rest them against each other. Feeling the effects of all of the poses that you've practiced. Feeling all of that new energy within your body, visiting every cell and just helping to renew and rejuvenate each one. If you enjoyed this practice, I would really appreciate it if you could leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I encourage you to stay here for as long as you can, or click into this 10-minute guided relaxation video. I'll see you on the mat again soon, but until then, take good care of yourself and goodbye.